Hello, my name is Julie Eberhardt, and I'm reporting for my Unit 12 investigation on the weather analysis and forecasting. Any mention of observations taken at my site were done here in the Goldstream Valley in Fairbanks, Alaska. So I'm going to begin by briefly going over the forecast that was issued on Monday for Monday. So this was the report for that day's weather. Taking a look here down in this region here is the Unalaska region, and over here is Kodiak. So those two are grouped into a maritime region. The weather reporting for that day, which was the 10th of September, you can kind of see here that we have some pretty distinct rain showers, low pressure system moving in here with the front moving towards the eastern direction here, so it's a westward wind. And then checking it out here, there's definitely some fog, some precipitation going on there with a little bit touching here on Kodiak Island. Taking a look some more, you can kind of see the higher pressure was here over at 1004 millibars. And there's definitely some cloud cover and a mixed temperature front moving in from here. Looking at the actual temperatures reported for that day from the weather system, Alaska had reported a high of 55, and the low wasn't recorded here on our information provided, at least not for Monday. And then in Kodiak, the high was around 52, and the low again wasn't reported. So then we can look at the Anchorage region here as well as Wasilla, because we're grouping that into the same pattern there of the coastal region. For this day, on Tuesday the 10th, it was reporting a clear sky, which is pretty apparent here since there's really not a lot of cloud cover there. And it's also a lower pressure system here, with the lowest reporting here at 1008 millibars just southeast of this coastal region that we're talking about. And there's some fog and rain just south of here that was moving in north from the southwest coast, so this front kind of started moving this way, and we can kind of see that. And then taking a look then at the continental region, which is Fairbanks right about yonder, the temperature, the cloud cover here is pretty minimal, but it's definitely making an impact here in the weather with this lighter photo of the clouds. And it's also a lower pressure system with reported temperatures kind of in the higher regions for that day. So then we can kind of take a look here and start comparing Kodiak's and Unalaska's air temperatures for the week. The National Weather Service reports at this nice jaggedy red line, while the highs for that day is this green square with the dashed lines, and the blue squares here represent the lows for that particular day. So taking a look here at Kodiak on Monday, we had a temperature of about 52 degrees. That was the reported high, and that stayed pretty consistent here through Thursday, and then it kind of leveled off again at the same, just about 55. When you look at the lows here, Tuesday was a bit lower here with 42, and then it kind of tapered off here through Wednesday and Thursday at 45, and then slowly started to increase to about 47 for the rest of the week. In Unalaska, during the week, it was Monday had a high of 55, with again that low not being reported for that day according to our graph. And then on Tuesday it was a high of 52 with a low of 45, and then that was the same pretty much through the rest of the week, that those temperatures were really consistent in those low to mid 50s. And reporting kind of with the National Weather Service, the lines here you can kind of tell are relatively consistent here, and the lines kind of match up, except here on Wednesday there's a pretty varying difference here, and then again through the rest of the week, on Thursday's pretty decent, but Friday, Saturday, and Sunday all kind of are a little jagged here in accordance to that National Weather Service and their reported temperatures for the week. So kind of following the same pattern here, we'll take a look at Wasilla. And again, the lows were not reported for Monday, but we can see again this green box represents the highs, while the blue box is the lows. So looking here on Monday, that was the 10th, we had a high of just about 59 degrees, and then that started to kind of lower and taper off here at about 55 and stayed pretty consistent throughout the week with some varying temperature recordings in between. And the lows started here on Tuesday the 11th and started to raise up and just sort of taper off a bit here with some reported lows at around 40 or so. In comparison with Anchorage, Anchorage stayed just pretty consistent throughout the week, with highs reporting usually about 55 and the lows at about 35. And on Wednesday it warmed up a little bit, so the regular daytime temperature high was 53 with the low at 41. And then kind of as it tapered off here on Friday, it started to warm up a bit as well. In comparison with the National Weather Service's temperature recordings, it was relatively consistent up until through the Friday and Sunday mark, where it started to definitely vary, and the temperatures reported were much higher than those recorded by the National Weather Service. I found that Friday had the most interesting table here, or graph rather, for the weather recordings throughout the week. It definitely was kind of the prettiest one, and laid out pretty consistent with the reportings of the National Weather Service. On Monday, you can see the high was reported at about 52 degrees, and then it started to increase for Tuesday and Wednesday at about 55, and then dropped down pretty low here Thursday and Friday, and then again started to rise up pretty dramatically. The lows were quite low here in the starting here at the 30s on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then slowly started to increase as that daytime temperature also started to increase. And again, it was pretty consistent with the National Weather Service, and in comparison to my recordings from that week, it was relatively consistent as well. So again, just kind of taking a look here at the recordings from that week. These are the temperatures that I had recorded for this week, and that was the week of the 10th of September and beyond, just for that remainder. And again, my temperatures are pretty consistent here. You can kind of see my highs were in the 50s, which is just about where they were recording here in the National Weather Service from that day. And then the lows were just above 30s. It kind of dropped off a little bit here as the week progressed. And as I've said before, you know, it's a lot warmer at my house than it is throughout the rest of the Fairbanks area because I'm up in the hills. So I'm really not surprised to kind of see that comparison here with my temperatures versus the temperatures from the most recent observation maps that we've been given here in Unit 12. So just to kind of take another overview here of the daily temperature, or daily average temperatures for the particular week that we're focusing on, everything lays out pretty consistent with the Screenomatic, or not the Screenomatic, I'm sorry, with the graphs that we've been given. And average temperatures were just about low to mid 50s throughout the entire week, as it started to kind of taper off on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for most of the region here that we're studying, and so that's both for the maritime, coastal, and continental regions that we're kind of focusing on. The temperatures all sort of average the same. And then taking a look down here at Table 2 for the mean September temperatures, again, those temperatures are pretty spot on with one another, with the coldest average temperature being here in Fairbanks, which is to be expected since we're significantly farther north than any of these other regions, and we don't experience the humidity that the coastal region and the maritime regions start to experience, especially here just kind of throughout the changing of the seasons. So as for predicting the weather for Thursday and Friday, since it recorded higher temperatures than had been forecasted in Unalaska, Kodiak, and Anchorage, taking a look here, you can see this day, it was Wednesday, and it was being issued for that particular day, and you can kind of see here the front that's moving north as it progresses throughout this region, and this whole kind of area is affected here, so it's kind of no wonder that these clouds started to move in. There's definitely some precipitation, and there's a lower pressure system which would start to indicate that the cloud cover is going to begin to increase. And then as we look at the Wednesday forecast for Thursday the 13th, again it's this this lower pressure system's moving in. There's consistent rain and kind of heavier set clouds as indicated here by the green and gray. And again, we have this lower pressure moving westward across the Unalaska area. Kodiak is mildly unaffected, as is the Anchorage region, but again, these winds are kind of expected to be blowing a little bit, so you can start to expect that cloud cover kind of moving back in. Then taking a look here at Friday, again, this pressure system has definitely moved eastward here. And so this whole entire region is clearly affected. There's some heavier cloud cover, which is going to start to increase in those higher temperatures, just as the area is affected. And there's definitely some fog and rain, so you can expect just some more humidity going on through this particular region for that day. And then as we look at the actual reporting for Friday, it's pretty clear there's some consistencies here. Here's that low pressure system is finally kind of set down a little bit. There's some rain just off the coast, and this right here is where Kodiak would be, and then Alaska down in this region, and then Anchorage here. So it's pretty apparent that those temperatures are going to increase with the increase of cloud cover, as well as some precipitation as it starts to kind of move forward here at this point, it was that fall kind of week. And lastly, I'm just taking a look here at the weather map in accordance with the with the weather in Fairbanks here, which is just about this region. And again, there is some fog and definitely some rain and snow showers as well. During this day, you can kind of see this brighter sky, so indicating that there is some light cloud cover. And that could be in part from this pressure system that's starting to move up through here. And again, the lower pressure system being recorded here at 1010 millibars, kind of starting to show that the temperature here is going to begin to increase as the weekend comes. And then looking at the forecast for the next day, again, there's a system kind of moving forward from the southwest region, and there's some rain showers as well, and then there's very, very light cloud cover for that time. So at this point, it isn't exactly forecasted that there's going to be cloud cover too heavy over the Fairbanks area. And then as we look again, this one was again issued on Friday, and it was for Fairbanks for Sunday. And there's this nice big circle here, this nice big open gap, which is about where we're located. So again, it's going to have those cooler temperatures recording there. And again, some rain here in the south with the pressure system moving forward here, and kind of tapering off here in the north. But again, lots of rain present. And then lastly, as we actually look at the reporting for Sunday, you can kind of see the cyclone area here as the pressure system starts to kind of become gradient throughout here. And then again, some heavier cloud cover. So as it was recorded, the temperatures those days were much warmer than had been predicted. And a couple of reasons could have consisted of that. Whoever was making the forecast could have just been going on the trends for the week. So really just going based on what the next 24 hours was going to be similar to the current weather, and issuing that it's going to stay just about the same. Or it also could have just been a guess of, or a moment of persistence where the weather will just remain unchanged from where it's been. But again, as it's kind of proving here, those clouds definitely moved in when it definitely hadn't been really forecasted for it. And lastly, I'm just going to take a quick look here at my worksheet and just sort of my weather predictions throughout the week. I thought it was really difficult doing this assignment. I found it to be incredibly challenging, and I must have done a lot of things wrong because I was watching other people's screencasts, and I think that my numbers were pretty far off from theirs. So it's definitely a challenge, and I can just definitely understand how this can be pretty difficult for people who actually do this for a living. And just kind of scooting down, you can get kind of a better look at it. Again, pretty difficult for me. I definitely had a bit of a struggle for it, but I think that as time kind of progresses, and hopefully I'll have a better grasp and understanding on it. And again, just kind of looking through here, and the only thing that I felt matched up with other people's forecasts were the numbers here through tables for A through C. They remained relatively consistent, and again, we're kind of showing that later throughout the week, and the assessment started to kind of fail a bit. I believe that's about it for the day, and thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week.